Hello and welcome. Before we begin, feel free to subscribe and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from, and how are you feeling today? Your presence here truly matters. They found me under a bridge, clutching a torn coat and a name no one had spoken in years. Once I had a house, a family, a garden that refused to bloom. Now I had a scar where trust used to live. When my sister reappeared with keys and millions, I thought it was salvation. But the ones who took everything once, they were already coming back. They say your body adjusts to cold after a while, but mine never did. I still woke up every morning under that overpass in Portland with my teeth chattering and my fingers curled so tight I had to pry them open one by one. The cot at the shelter had been full the night before. First come, first serve, and I was neither fast nor early, so I'd tucked myself into the far corner near the retaining wall, layered in every scrap of fabric I could find: a raincoat from a church drive, a scarf someone left on the bus. Nothing matched. Everything smelled like mildew and cigarettes, but it kept me alive. I used to have a house, a real house with a yellow mailbox and a garden that refused to grow tomatoes no matter how much I begged. I used to have a husband too, and children, and a cat named Theodore who hated everyone but me. That feels like another woman's life now. I lost the house 3 years ago. Or rather, my son took it, kindly, legally, and with the same tone he used to ask for seconds at dinner. "It's just to help you manage, Mom. You don't want all that paperwork." What I got in return was a bus ticket, a hug that felt like a pat-down, and a voicemail explaining why they just couldn't take care of me anymore. The rest of it, the savings, the pension, the little condo, bought after Joe died, slipped through cracks I didn't even know existed. The woman at the soup kitchen knew my name. That was something. She called me Miss Margaret and gave me an extra scoop of mashed potatoes if I smiled. So I smiled. Some days I felt like I smiled more for food than I ever did for love. That morning, I sat on the curb with my styrofoam tray, sipping lukewarm coffee and watching the world step around me. Suits, yoga pants, sneakers that cost more than I had in my name. Everyone busy, everyone somewhere to be. I didn't expect anyone to find me. Not anymore. So when I heard the engine purr low behind me and turned to see a black Tesla idling at the curb, I assumed it was someone lost, or rich, or both. The window slid down. I recognized the gold bracelet first. Thick, elegant, and utterly impractical. Then the face behind it. "Margaret?" The voice cracked. Oh my God. Maggie? I hadn't been called that in over 3 decades, and only one person ever said it, like it was a prayer. My sister, Vivian. I stood too fast and had to grip the edge of the bench so I wouldn't fall. She was out of the car before I could speak, heels clicking against concrete, coat flaring like a movie scene. Her hair was silver now, but styled like she still ran board meetings, which, knowing Vivian, she probably did. "What? How? Jesus Christ!" She reached for my arm and then pulled back, like she wasn't sure I was real. "What the hell happened to you?" I wanted to laugh, or cry, or disappear. Instead, I said, "You found me." She took a long, shaky breath. "Come on. You're coming with me." I didn't ask where. I didn't ask why. I just followed. Because after everything, after all the silence, the lost years, the hurt, I knew one thing. I couldn't sleep under that bridge another night. Not and still remember my name in the morning. The Tesla smelled like leather and roses. I smelled like concrete and failure. I sat with my hands in my lap and didn't touch anything. She didn't talk. Not right away. Just drove like she had somewhere urgent to be, and it had taken her 29 years to realize it. We pulled into a parking garage beneath a building that looked like the kind of place doormen smiled at you with their teeth, not their eyes. She led me upstairs, penthouse of course, and into a space that made my throat tighten. Marble countertops, skylights, furniture that looked more like art, and me, in a second-hand coat with a broken zipper, standing on white carpet like I was bleeding on it. "I'm sorry," she said finally, turning to face me. "I should have looked for you sooner. I didn't know. I didn't know it got this bad." "It didn't," I said. "Then it did." She made me tea. Real tea. Not a bag from a box, but leaves steeped in hot water with honey from a glass jar. She set it in front of me like I was someone who still mattered. My hands shook when I picked it up. "I want you to stay here," she said. "As long as you want." "Hell, forever, if that's what it takes." I looked at the velvet chair, the clean kitchen, the city lights outside the window. "Why now?" Vivian didn't flinch. "Because it's too late for apologies. But not too late to fix what I can," I believed her. Maybe not fully, maybe not forever. But I believed that she meant it in that moment. Later that night, after a hot shower and a borrowed robe softer than anything I'd touched in years, I curled up on a guest bed big enough to drown in and let myself sleep. Deep, full sleep. The kind I hadn't tasted since the night I signed my house away and told myself it was just paperwork. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't. I woke to silence. Not the kind you get on the streets or in shelters, where silence is just the breath before noise, but the kind that's earned. Deep, padded, complete. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The mattress cradled me like a cloud. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender and starch, and when I opened my eyes, I saw the soft shimmer of morning light bouncing off some ridiculous chandelier that probably cost more than I made in a year when I still worked. The guest bedroom in Vivian's penthouse was larger than the apartment I'd lost. There was a small sitting area, a vanity, even a stack of books she'd left on the nightstand, titles I used to read back when my eyesight was better and my back was straighter. She remembered. That alone nearly broke me. She knocked before entering, carrying a tray with breakfast. Eggs soft the way I liked, fresh orange slices, toast with jam and a little silver ramekin. It felt obscene. "Eat," she said. "Then we're going shopping." I blinked. "Shopping? You're not walking into your new apartment in what you wore yesterday." That's how I found out she wasn't just putting me up temporarily. She'd already bought me a place. A 2-bedroom condo overlooking Lake Washington, with a little balcony and a building concierge who called everyone ma'am. I stood in the middle of the living room later that afternoon, carpet soft under my bare feet, and realized I didn't own a single item in that space. Vivian handed me the keys and a folder. Inside, the deed, the security codes, and a certified check for $5 million. "I want you to have your life back," she said. "This won't fix the past. But it can buy you a new future, or burn the old one down." Up to you, I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight, too dry to swallow, too thick to let anything out. I managed to nod. Barely. That night, I stood in my own kitchen, my name on the deed, my hand on the counter, and cried like I hadn't in years. Not soft, dignified tears, but the ugly animal kind that shake your whole chest and make you gasp. I cried for the lost time, for the betrayal, for the part of me that had shriveled from trying to stay polite while everything fell apart. And then I washed my face, took the new pajamas out of the Bloomingdale's bag, and slipped into bed without setting an alarm. I'd earned at least one morning without dread, but peace doesn't stick long when you've been trained to expect the floor to fall out. The second week in the condo, I was in the kitchen boiling water for tea when the intercom buzzed. "This is Tom Ellis," the voice said. "I'm here to see my mother." I dropped the kettle. He was standing in the lobby, clean-shaven, wearing the same smug smile he always put on when he wanted something. I hadn't seen him in over 2 years. Not since the eviction. Not since he told me, "It's for your own good, Mom. We're doing this so you'll be taken care of." He'd said it like a favor. Like theft in a soft voice was still kindness. I didn't buzz him in. I told the concierge to take a message. Later, I sat on the balcony with my tea cooling in my hand. My stomach churned. How had he found me? Vivian promised only a handful of people knew. I hadn't posted anything, called anyone, written a letter. Hell, I hadn't even bought a damn stamp. The next day, there was a knock at the door. Not the lobby, my door. I looked through the peephole, and there he was again, flowers in hand like he thought this was a sitcom reconciliation. I opened the door just far enough to let my voice through. You've got 10 seconds to tell me how you found me. He looked surprised, like he expected warmth. I just wanted to see how you're doing, he said. You disappeared. I disappeared, I laughed, bitter. You signed me over to a care facility. You told people I was unstable. He flinched. Good. That was a mistake. I see that now. Who told you where I was? His smile cracked. Jason mentioned. He saw something. Online Jason. My grandson. He came by the shelter once before I left. Said he missed me. Said he didn't know what his father had done. Apparently, he knew enough to report back. I shut the door. That night I called Vivian. She cursed. Loudly. I'll increase the security. We'll get the building scrubbed from every public record. If he tries anything legal, he will, I said. He's not done. She went quiet. Then we won't be either. I lay awake long after midnight, watching headlights skim the ceiling. In my gut, I felt it. The old fear creeping in. But this time, it wasn't alone. Anger walked beside it, steady and hot. They'd already taken everything once. They wouldn't get the chance again. The next morning, there were lilies on my doorstep, white ones. His mother's favorite, not mine. No note. Just the wrapped stems laid neatly across the welcome mat, like an apology trying too hard to forget the knife behind it. I didn't touch them. I let them rot there for 3 days until the concierge called and politely asked if I'd like help disposing of the gift. It's not a gift, I said. It's a warning in nice paper. After that, Tom started leaving voicemails. Every other day, always just the right blend of worried and wounded. I miss you, Mom. Jason's been asking about you. We never wanted you to feel unsafe. We just want to talk. That's what he called it when they tricked me into signing my retirement over. That's what he called it when the house I lived in for 30 years mysteriously sold to a trust he managed. We'd talked plenty. Vivian, for her part, didn't wait. She brought in her legal team, the kind of firm that charges by the minute and wins by the hour. A woman named Kayla, sharp as a paper cut and twice as clean, took over everything. She had me sign new documents, revoking old powers of attorney, locking down accounts, setting up what she called a fortress. I trusted her instantly. She didn't ask for my story. She read it in my eyes. A few days later, Kayla called. He tried to register a new trust, she said, flat. This time for your condo. My heart stuttered. But it's in my name. It still is. But he filed paperwork as if you'd authorized a transfer. It hasn't gone through, yet. We're blocking it. I didn't ask how he got access. I already knew. Jason, my grandson. I sat on the floor of the guest bedroom that night, next to the suitcase I still hadn't fully unpacked. A few of my old sweaters, a pair of worn shoes, the pill organizer I carried with me like a cross. I pulled out my small blue notebook, bent at the corners, filled with scribbles I'd started making years ago. Dates, amounts, names. It looked like clutter to anyone else. But it was my record, my evidence. There, in ink faded by time but still legible, was the entry from the week before the house disappeared. Tom. Temporary, power of attorney. Said lawyer just needs something to finalize refinance. Promised to reverse after closing. I remember his smile that day. Polite, rehearsed, like a waiter upselling wine. That night I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I sat still and listened. The wind rattled the balcony door. Somewhere downstairs, someone laughed. Full, rich laughter that had nothing to do with me. And I thought, let them try. 2 days later, Jason showed up. Not at the door this time. He waited on the curb outside the building. I spotted him from the lobby window when I was heading to my doctor's appointment. Hoodie pulled low, headphones in. A grown man playing at being small. When he saw me, he stood, pulled off the headphones, and raised one hand in a limp sort of wave. I stopped. "Grandma," he said, like it still meant something. I didn't move. "I didn't know what he was doing," he said. "Not really. I thought he just wanted to help you." I narrowed my eyes. "So you sent him my address?" He looked at his shoes. He saw a message on my phone. "From you. That's all." He guessed. I didn't mean for him to show up here. "You told him everything," I said. "You handed me over." "No," he said quickly. "I swear. I didn't think—" "That's the problem, Jason. None of you ever do. You just want and take and expect me to smile through it." He winced. "I'm sorry." "I'm sure you are," I said. "But I'm not the one you need to say it to. Go tell your father. Tell him I'm not afraid of him anymore." He stood there for a moment, face pale, jaw tight like he wanted to fight the words. But he didn't. He turned and walked back down the street, without another word. That evening, someone spray-painted my door. Just one word: greedy. The concierge found it first and offered to have it cleaned immediately, on the building's dime. I told him no. "Leave it," I said. "Let him know I saw it." Later that night, I stared at the check from Vivian, still untouched, still in its envelope in the kitchen drawer. $5 million. Enough to disappear forever, if I wanted. But I'd already done that once. Disappeared. Shrunk. Went silent. Not this time. This time, I was going to make noise. I kept the spray-painted door for 48 hours. Just long enough to let whoever wrote it twist in the dark, wondering what I might do. Then I had it cleaned. Not covered. Removed. Like rot cut from a tree. Vivian wanted to bring in security. Armed men, cameras, glass you couldn't shatter with a hammer. I told her no. I wasn't going to turn my home into a panic room. I'd lived in enough cages. This one wouldn't be of my own making. Instead, we went to war with paper. Kayla, my lawyer, my quiet weapon, filed every document she could. We canceled the fraudulent trust filings, froze the title of the condo under an emergency injunction. I signed revocation after revocation, each stroke of the pen steadier than the last. She had me sit with a forensic handwriting expert. They matched my previous signature on the trust to the shaky, drug-dulled version of my post-surgical hand. Consent under duress. That's what they called it. Tom, meanwhile, escalated. He filed a petition in family court to have me declared mentally unfit. Said I was showing signs of confusion. Claimed I was being manipulated by my sister for her own financial gain. The man had the gall to accuse Vivian of elder abuse. Vivian, who had more decency in one manicured nail than he'd shown in a decade. When Kayla called with the news, she expected me to cry, maybe even crumble. Instead, I asked what time the hearing was. "Are you sure you want to attend in person?" she asked. "It's not going to be pleasant." I didn't come this far to hide behind a monitor. I wore navy. No black. Black is for mourning, and I wasn't mourning a damn thing. My hair was pulled back clean, my pearls real. Vivian offered to drive, but I wanted to walk in alone. Let him see me. See exactly what he'd tried to erase. He was already seated when I entered the courtroom. Pale gray suit, expensive haircut. That same wary look I remembered from his teenage years when he got caught with a cigarette behind the garage. Next to him, his attorney, a young woman with too bright lipstick and too little shame. The judge was older, sharp-eyed, impatient. Thank God. Tom's lawyer made her opening remarks. Concerned tones, stories of forgetfulness, erratic decisions, alleged paranoia. She mentioned the large check from Vivian at least 3 times, as if generosity were a diagnosis. Then Kayla stood. She didn't shout, didn't posture. She walked through the facts with the precision of a surgeon. The fraudulent trusts, the forged filings, the attempts to reroute my bank accounts, and finally, the request, already denied, to claim I lacked capacity to manage my affairs. Then I took the stand. I'd rehearsed with Kayla, practiced the questions, the tone. But the moment I raised my hand and swore in, none of that mattered. I looked at the judge and said, "My son believes I'm easier to manage when I'm broke." He's not wrong. A ripple went through the courtroom. I heard Vivian exhale behind me. I told the truth plainly. I explained how I'd trusted my son when he said he was helping, how I'd signed things without reading because my vision was blurred from pain and my heart was too full of trust, how I'd ended up in a shelter while he lived in a house I bought. And then I looked at Tom. "You took everything once," I said, "but I got up, and I don't plan on going back down." He wouldn't meet my eyes. The judge didn't need long. Motion denied. No guardianship. No capacity hearing. Full rights affirmed. He even suggested, gently, that my son consider therapy. Outside the courthouse, Vivian lit a cigarette, then laughed when she remembered she quit 10 years ago. "Well," she said, "that went better than expected." I nodded. But I didn't smile, because I knew Tom. This wasn't over. The next day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name in neat block print. Inside, a single line. "You think this is a win?" No signature. Just that. I folded the paper, placed it on the table, and set my cup of tea on top. Let it absorb the heat. Let it wrinkle and fade. They thought they could scare me back into silence. But silence had already taken too much. I wasn't going to whisper anymore. I was going to roar. I didn't throw the letter away. I left it right there on the table, tea-stained and curling at the edges. Every morning for a week, I'd look at it as I sipped my coffee. Let it remind me who I was dealing with. Let it remind me that silence only served the one holding the knife. And then one night, as the wind rattled the windows and the heat clicked through the vents like bones settling, the doorbell rang. I checked the time. 9:30. Too late for neighbors. Too early for emergencies. I didn't rush. I slid on my robe, checked the peephole, and there he was. Jason. No hoodie this time. No headphones. Just a young man standing in the hallway like he'd been kicked out of time, his shoulders slumped, his hands empty. I opened the door, just far enough to make him wonder if I might slam it. "Grandma," he said, "can I come in?" I stepped aside. He didn't move like someone visiting. He moved like someone arriving for judgment. Sat down on the edge of the couch and stared at the floor, like the truth might be hiding in the carpet fibers. "I didn't know he was going to do that," he said. "The spray paint. The letter. That was him." "And what were you?" I asked. He looked up. Stupid. I wanted to believe he was fixing things, that he was trying to help you. I sat across from him, knees aching, spine tight from a day spent filing more paperwork with Kayla. "I have a notebook," I said. "Blue cover. I've kept it for years. Not because I'm petty, but because I'm old. And when people start pretending you don't remember, you learn to keep proof." He nodded, not understanding yet. "In that notebook," I continued, "is a page with your name. The day you asked me for help with your tuition. The check I wrote when your car broke down. The rent I paid so you could stay in New York one more semester." He flinched. Just barely. But it was enough. I don't keep those things to throw in your face. I keep them to remind myself I gave. Freely. With love. and I don't regret it. But don't stand here and pretend you didn't know what your father was doing. You knew. Jason's voice cracked. I didn't know it would go that far. They never start by taking everything. Just a signature, a favor, a little access. And the next thing you know, you're under a bridge with your dignity stuffed into a backpack. He didn't cry. That would have been easier, maybe. Instead, he stood. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Good, I said. Say it to the mirror, too. After he left, I stood by the window, watched him disappear into the night, swallowed by taillights and shadow. I wanted to believe he meant it, but I'd spent too many years confusing remorse with regret. They weren't the same. The next morning, the building concierge knocked on my door. Miss Ellis, there was an incident. My throat tightened. What kind of incident? Someone broke into the lobby overnight. No one hurt, but there's damage. I went down with him. The glass case with the tenant names had been shattered. Spray paint again, this time in angry red across the marble floor. You owe us. Security's reviewing footage, he said. We've called the police. I stared at the words. My knees didn't buckle. My heart didn't race. I just felt cold. Cold and clear. When I got back upstairs, I made a call to Kayla. No more reacting, I said. I want to go on record. Publicly. Legally. If they want to fight, I'm done playing defense. She didn't hesitate. I'll set it up. That night, I sat on my balcony with a blanket over my lap and my old notebook open beside me. I wasn't reading it. I just liked the feel of it there, like armor that fit. And I realized something. They weren't angry because I had something. They were angry because they lost control of someone they thought would never say no. They thought they'd left me powerless. But I had power, more than they ever imagined. And now I was going to use it. The press conference was held in a small room inside a midtown legal office. Nothing glamorous, just white walls, bottled water, and a podium with a plastic sign that read ELLISV. Ellis, Public Response. My name, as it turns out, made for a tidy headline. I stood behind that podium, palms flat, spine straight. Vivian sat in the front row beside Kayla, legs crossed, lips pressed into the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. There were maybe a dozen reporters in the room, plus one man from a national paper who looked like he hadn't shaved in 3 days. Cameras flickered. Microphones waited. My name is Margaret Ellis, I began. I'm 74 years old, and for the last 4 years, I've been fighting to keep what's mine from people who once called me family. I didn't read from a script, didn't choke on my words. I spoke plainly about how my son manipulated my trust, how he convinced me to sign over financial power when I was recovering from surgery, how, slowly and deliberately, I was erased from my own life. I talked about the shelter, the cot that smelled like bleach, the paper bracelet around my wrist. I described the moment I found out my home, was no longer mine. And I talked about silence, the kind that isn't peace, but pressure, the kind women my age have been taught to maintain, because no one wants to hear complaints from an old lady. They heard me now. I didn't name him outright. I didn't need to. Court documents were already filed. His signature was on every page, his voice on voicemail, his spray paint on marble. I finished with this. I was not confused. I was not frail. I was not hysterical. I was targeted. And now, I'm done being quiet. Afterwards, Kayla fielded questions while I stepped aside and let the cameras flash over her young, sharp face. She was the future. I had given my truth. That was enough. By the next morning, the story had made its way to national news outlets. Elder financial abuse on the rise. Portland woman reclaims life after legal betrayal. Even NPR called. I declined the interview. I didn't need more airtime. I needed peace. Tom lost his job within the week. His firm cited ethics violations. Cora's yoga studio posted a vague statement about restructuring. I didn't gloat. But I didn't grieve either. When I handed Kayla the final signed revocation of every last legal connection to my son, she looked at me and said, "Now what?" "Now," I said, "I go home. The one I choose, not the one I'm allowed." The condo sold quickly. Too quickly for how overpriced it was, but I didn't care. I wired a small portion of the money into a checking account and the rest into a quiet fund under a new name. I packed lightly, left the navy coats and wool trousers for someone else. Took the good walking shoes and the blue notebook. I bought a house in a small town in Florida. Nothing fancy. One story, a lemon tree in the backyard, neighbors who nod but don't ask questions. When I arrived, the air was thick with salt and cicadas. The house smelled like emptiness and new paint. I walked barefoot across the cool tile floors, turned the key in the lock twice, and let out a breath that had been stuck in my chest for years. I adopted a dog, scruffy thing from a rescue, missing one ear and most of her teeth. I named her Marbles. She follows me everywhere. Every morning I drink coffee on the porch. The mug sweats in the heat. The birds scream like they're announcing something sacred. I wear sundresses again. I sleep through the night. And no one has my address. Not Jason. Not Tom. Not even Vivian. She didn't ask. She just hugged me tight at the airport and whispered, "Don't send a postcard. Just live I do." Sometimes I catch myself humming while I sweep the porch. A tune I don't remember learning. A melody that belongs only to me now. They took everything once, but I rebuilt, brick by brick, truth by truth, and now they'll never get close enough to take anything again.